Hello everyone, my name is Juan. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you through this forum, and I apologize for any uh, issues with quality, with the sound or with the video because I'm not very apt at technology. Before I begin, I'd like to first thank the organizers for putting all this together. It's been a very difficult time for me, both personally and in my career, and so at multiple times during this period of preparation, I've thought of giving up and not pursuing this video. But with the constant reminders and pursuit by the organizers and the insistence that I complete a video no matter how short it is, here I am. So at the very beginning, I want to talk to you about the theme of this whole event: think globally, act locally. I'm actually not very familiar with this phrase. I had to go out and Google to try to see what it's all about. And I realized that the initial reference of this term or this phrase is about protecting the environment. To be honest, I'm not someone who is very enthusiastic about protecting the environment. The laws about trying to sort waste in Shanghai issued last year was something that I followed half-heartedly and with a lot of protests. But the turn affected me a lot more in different manners because I think generally speaking, it refers to the mindset and the feelings that we have as individuals, how we are very caught up with what the real life experience is, what the reality seems to be for us right now, that we tend to forget we are a piece of a much bigger picture. But at the same time, we also tend to underestimate the efforts that we can have, the impacts that we bring to people, because we think we are not that significant, because we think that they are a way much bigger picture than us all. I'd like to share with you a personal experience and revelation that I had quite recently. So I suffer from this medical condition called gout. There are multiple reasons why people would develop gout, but generally speaking, I think my condition was mainly based because I'm overweight and I don't control my diet. Gout is a condition that's extremely painful. It's basically uric acid forming, crystallizing on your joints, and then it becomes so big that it presses the nerves and it swells and it makes people unable to walk. Initially, I didn't really take gout as a problem very seriously. I mean, I had it 10 years ago. It does affect me once in a while, but I'm quick to adapt to the pain and the suffering that it brings. I'm able to operate despite all this restriction that's been placed on me. But over time, it becomes more frequent and it becomes an occurring term, occurring theme in my life, so much that it has impacted how I behave and how I carry on the things that I like to do. Not only did it change my diet, it basically restricts the entire lifestyle that I had and forces me to change, you know, who I meet, what I do, in what setting do I have sessions with my friends and have fun and things like that. But the most interesting about gout is how this whole disease work. So if you have friends or if you have relatives that experience the same condition, they probably can relate. The primary issue with gout is that there's a disproportionate amount of uric acid, usually caused because you are taking in too much protein and the bodies are not able to deal with this overbearing load. The way to solve gout is to control your diet and at the same time to lose weight. So exercising become a main piece of advice that I've been receiving from all the doctors that I've been to. But the funny thing about gout is that it's triggered by the fact that your joints or certain parts of your body suffers injury. So any single twist or like sprain could flare up the particular joint by having a lot of crystals deposited there. So on one hand, I'm told that I need to lose weight, I need to exercise. But on the other hand, my body actively prevents me from doing so. Right? The moment I try to do workouts that are a little bit more intense, I fall into injury and then the gout flare up. Now, there are ways to solve it. I'm supposed to be taking medication. I'm supposed to um, try to bring my uric acid level down. And all these are supposed to allow me to be able to better manage this. But the thing is, you don't see danger when they are coming to you. Right? If you look at how diseases work, most time the discomfort, the migraines, the headaches, or the sudden blink in your eye, it doesn't really account for anything serious, or it doesn't really trigger the mentality. Not as much as when you're on the edge of a cliff, where all your adrenaline starts warning you about the dangers of approaching a very dark place or a very dangerous animal. The trigger warnings in your bodies, they are silent for most of the time and usually very insignificant. When it becomes significant, you are usually left with no option. I remember very vividly the night when I was told by my doctors on a hospital bed that I might have kidney stones, that I might need to rely on dialysis the rest of my life in order to function a relatively more normal life. That shocked me because I'm only 31 years old. I probably can live on another 40 years if I want to. And 40 years on a dialysis machine trying to find a kidney replacement is going to be a terrible experience for anyone. And that was the first time that I got really, really scared. Like beyond the medication, the discomfort, the inconvenience, and the pain, that was the first time that I felt a life-threatening situation in front of me. That the adrenaline started to rush in, that many questions of what if, or how can, or if I could start all over again, started floating in my mind. I wanted to share this story not so much to appeal to everybody's pity. I think this is something that I got to live with the rest of my life, and it's a mistake that I'm trying to compensate for in the long term. But I wanted to share this story because I think this is how I understand what the environment is. If you think about it, the pain and the suffering and all the mishap that this environment is going through is very much what my body went through too. It's silent, it's insignificant, and it doesn't really cause much of an issue that's worth notice. But over time, when all of this adds up, when the day comes that suddenly you have forest fires that are uncontrollable, when the glaciers on the Himalayas no longer functions as it's supposed to be, and that the heat wave starts coming from the Sahara Desert, killing not just species uh, alongside, but also many of the rivers and drying up the important water source for billions of people. When you look at how crops and the biodiversity starts to dwindle and that people start frantically looking for alternate food source, that's when the problem really arises. That's when you start feeling the adrenaline, because that's most likely the big sign that we might not survive. Many people don't understand the importance of protecting the environment. I'm not saying that people don't talk about it. I'm saying that people don't act to protect the environment as much. I come from a country that's extremely small, but we are also one of the countries that consumes the most electricity. Well, there's a lot of ways to justify it. We are a very developed society. We have big needs for the energy. But the true question is it fair? And is it necessary? COVID-19 has plenty of harms. Millions of people dies, many jobs lost, and everybody affected by this. Pretty much anyone in this world. But scientists have found that in that period where human activity stopped drastically, the environment came back. I think this is a concrete evidence on how human activity has real and devastating impact on the environment that we all live to. It's no longer a matter of young people or younger people like you in front of this screen to think about the environment. It is an issue for every one of us now, old or young. I think that suggesting us to act locally is a very, very smart and relevant suggestion because actions to protect the environment adds up. Just like how the symptoms adds up to make things very, very severe, little actions adds up to make significant contributions that are undeniable. Reduce the use of plastic or reduce the use of electricity can go a long while. While the common arguments are that my little efforts don't mean a thing if other people are not doing so. If that's the case, go about and raise awareness. Talk to any kid you know today, all of them will tell you about global warming, all of them will tell you about environmental protection, and then all of them will return to their video games and their air-conditioned rooms and use up plastic boxes from the Waimai, the food deliveries that they get. Knowing about something exists and doing something to stop it from worsening are two different things. We need to do a lot more in the communities that we live in. Over the past 10 years that I've spent living in China, I think the government and the people there have done remarkable things that everyone should emulate. The fact that we are able to eliminate plastic bags from shopping centers and malls such as Walmart or Carrefour is an incredible feat that I think as a Singaporean will never be able to imagine what life would be. But at the same time, the transferring of concentration towards online spending platforms, the rise of food delivery, the increased usage of private cars in the shared economy like DT makes things a lot worse. So while we can compensate for the harm on the environment by reducing plastic, we are adding on to other things in the name of convenience, in the name of a better quality of life. I think it's going to take a lot. Just like how it's going to take a lot for me to lose weight, a lot for me to change my diet, and a lot for me to change my lifestyle. Saving the earth and the environment is not something simple. You have to live with a lot of inconvenience. You have to live with a lot of change in the quality of your life. And I think most importantly, you have live with a lot of discipline, like any other good lifestyle demands from us. But I think it's worth it because it changes the quality of your life instantaneously. It makes a world better, a world more optimistic and hopeful that future generations will survive better. It gives people a vote of confidence to know that maybe I can think about family planning. Maybe I'm bringing my child into a world that's gonna be better and fairer in terms of their survival. Protecting the environment is extremely tough. It's extremely difficult, especially in a society that's built solely or predominantly about chasing economic wealth, about increasing materialistic welfare. But I think it's important to see beyond that. because every country's development comes, the developmental stage for every country is vastly different. And I think the most important development is somewhere in the mind, the, the ability to think beyond yourself and that ability to act to influence people around you. I thank the forum for such an interesting topic, and I hope my personal experience dealing with my problems might give you some ideas of how you can deal with yours. I think together we can work in tandem and develop a world so much better, not just for ourselves, but for many of us to come in the future. Thank you very much for your attention.